A hush falls over the crowd, thick and electric. Thousands stare, enthralled. On stage, a figure strides into the light. The crowd erupts. This is power, raw and intoxicating. Power. But how is it built? How do leaders command such fervent devotion? The answer lies not in charisma alone, but in the shadows of our own minds. This is where we delve into the dark psychology of authoritarianism. We'll expose the tactics used to manipulate and control. Get ready to join us. We'll uncover the dark playbook of authoritarian leaders. Branding those they dehumanize as animals and enemies among us, they aim to trigger hidden wounds and capture minds. In the second part, we expose their methods and reveal how knowing your own schemas can set you free. This is a battle for autonomy, a battle for compassion, and it's one you can win. With schema therapy as your guide, reclaim control, resist their grip. Chapter 1: Unmasking Control. Imagine your deepest fears, your yearning for acceptance, twisted into weapons. That's what authoritarian leaders do. They exploit our schemas, the core beliefs we hold about ourselves and the world. These schemas, formed in childhood, can shape our adult lives. They can make us crave approval, fear the unknown, or seek a savior in times of chaos. And authoritarians, they are masters at recognizing and exploiting these vulnerabilities. Over the next few minutes, we'll journey into the heart of these manipulations. We'll explore the tactics, the impact, and most importantly, the way out. This is about reclaiming your mind, your voice, your freedom. This is about understanding how leaders who are authoritarians manipulate you. Chapter 2: The Siren Song of Approval. Deep within us, the need for approval hums. It's primal, a vestige of our tribal past. To survive, we yearn to belong, to be accepted by the group. Authoritarian leaders understand this. They weaponize it. They offer a seductive bargain: acceptance in exchange for loyalty. Follow me, they proclaim, and you will be part of something greater, something pure. The crowd roars its approval. Dissent is silenced. This is the approval-seeking schema in action. It's a hunger that can never be satiated. The leader dangles acceptance like a carrot, always just out of reach, demanding ever greater displays of loyalty. The crowd becomes a mirror, reflecting back the leader's image. Individuality fades. Critical thought withers. Only the leader's voice remains. Chapter 3: Echo Chambers and Validation. In the age of information overload, finding validation has never been easier or more dangerous. Social media becomes a weapon of mass manipulation. Algorithms curate our feeds, amplifying what we already believe. There are no fact-checkers here. Truth is sidelined for profit as companies rake in billions from this endless cycle. Facts are irrelevant. Evidence? Discarded. Only the leader's truth matters. Each like and share triggers a release of dopamine, creating a rush. But it's the anticipation, the hunt for validation that keeps us hooked. The algorithms know this. They stoke anger and outrage, feeding us a steady diet of beliefs unchallenged, primed to come back for more. On social media platforms, anger is the main currency, driving clicks and engagement. And anger is powerful. It drives action against perceived threats. This constant drip of validation builds a powerful feedback loop. Doubts are erased. Critical thinking fades. We're lured into an addictive flow state, a place where time and reason dissolve. Leaving becomes almost impossible. And the crowd? Fueled by anger, driven by righteousness, they turn on those who dare to dissent. The others are no longer just people, they're threats, and the crowd answers with a vengeance. Chapter 4: The Belonging Paradox. Here's the cruel irony. The very act of seeking approval from an authoritarian leader ultimately leads to isolation. By surrendering their individuality and their critical thinking, followers become isolated from anyone who doesn't share their beliefs. Families are torn apart. Friendships fracture. Communities disintegrate. The leader encourages this division, knowing that a divided population is easier to control. This is the belonging paradox. The more desperately we seek approval from an authoritarian leader, the more isolated we become. And the more isolated we become, the more we crave the leader's approval, creating a vicious cycle. Chapter 5: Whispers of Fear. It's a primal instinct, igniting our drive to survive. Fear sharpens our senses, heightens our awareness, and authoritarian leaders know it well. They know that a fearful populace is a malleable one. They paint a world on the brink. Dangers lurk everywhere. Enemies, real and imagined, plot in the shadows. The media, often complicit, whether intentional or not, amplifies these narratives. Fear drives ratings, boosting viewership and readership alike. It can feel like our survival is on the line. This is the vulnerability to harm schema at play. This schema, often rooted in childhood experiences, makes us hypersensitive to threats, real or perceived. We crave security, stability, protection. And the authoritarian leader? They offer it, but at a steep price. It's a pact, a deal that demands obedience. Surrender your freedoms, they promise, and I will keep you safe from the animals, the thugs, the enemies. Driven by fear, desperate for security, many willingly comply, binding themselves to this unholy bargain. Chapter 6: The Illusion of Safety. The authoritarian leader constructs a narrative of order and control. They offer simple solutions to complex problems. They promise to restore a mythical past, a time when everything was safe and secure. History be damned, facts forgotten. All that matters is the illusion, the dream they dangle before us. This illusion of safety is intoxicating. It offers solace in a world that feels increasingly chaotic and unpredictable. People cling to it, desperate for any semblance of order. But this order is built on a foundation of fear and hate, a structure that thrives on division. feeding on our darkest emotions. Dissent is crushed, branded as dangerous and subversive. Independent thought withers. It's cast as a threat to the fragile illusion. Trust only me for the truth, the leader commands, elevating himself as the sole source of reality. To question them is to question the very fabric of this fragile order. And in a world teeming with perceived threats and enemies, who would dare to do that? Chapter 7. Manufactured Enemies. To maintain control, authoritarian leaders need an enemy, someone to blame for the anxieties they have stoked. The leader's enemy is anyone outside his narrow ideal: non-white immigrants, gender and sexual minorities, dissenters with little power to defend themselves. History's xenophobic playbook repeats, shifting targets to fit the times. They're sending their worst, he warns, pouring his scorn on those who dare exist beyond his vision. Propaganda machines roar to life, amplifying the leader's words. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, he declares, fully aware it's a lie, stoking fear and contempt with calculated deceit. He carves the line deeper, driving home the us versus them divide. And the stakes couldn't be higher. Survival itself feels on the line. This hatred unifies his followers and blinds them, a powerful distraction from the leader's own failings. The cycle of fear and division becomes self-perpetuating. Chapter 8. Starved for affection. Imagine a childhood starved of warmth, devoid of genuine connection, a place where love was a prize for submission, not a birthright. Here, the seeds of the emotional deprivation and subjugation schemas take root, weaving a desperate need for care with a readiness to yield. And authoritarian leaders recognize these souls instantly, primed to surrender, conditioned to trade freedom for even the faintest promise of care. They offer the illusion of a familial bond, but it's acceptance with strings attached. The leader becomes the sole source of warmth, the beacon of belonging. Followers cling desperately, overlooking lies, abuses, betrayals. That's just him, they say. Don't take him seriously. But history is clear. Take the authoritarian leader seriously. They'll do anything to avoid reopening the wounds of neglect. The leader seizes this need and exploits it, tightening his grip with merciless precision. Followers become captives, bound not by chains, but by the fragile promise of belonging. Chapter 10. The Throne of One. The promise of belonging holds them captive, yet it's hollow. His loyalty lies elsewhere. He stands before the crowd, basking in their cheers, but to him they're nothing. Mere props in his theater of power. Driven by the entitlement, grandiosity schema, he believes he is unmatched. He's beyond them all, deserving of praise, wealth, and their obedience. Outside of staged photo ops, only the top 1% get the privilege of even interacting with him. This is his mode of self-aggrandizer. It's the insatiable need to be the center of all attention. It's the sole focus of loyalty and admiration. His rule cannot be questioned. and his word stands untouchable by law. He craves the spotlight and sees no equal, answering only to himself and dismissing those who dare to challenge him. For authoritarians, history's truths are irrelevant. They invent their own. Loyalty is their obsession, assuming past strong men, like Hitler, commanded perfect obedience. Never mind history's reality, Hitler's generals simmered with rebellion, their plots to kill him lurking in the shadows. Constitutions, laws, mere obstacles, rules for others. Power in their minds should flow unchecked, bending entirely to their will, untouched by limits or lessons from the past. In fact, the leader holds it all in contempt, vowing to dismantle a system he neither understands nor respects, captivated, instead, by the allure of president for life. He is there to serve only himself, caring nothing for those who stand below him. To him, they are expendable pawns in a game of his making. The crowd that cheers him clings to the fragile promise of belonging, unaware of his true disdain. He offers them acceptance, but only on his terms. They are useful, nothing more. But loyalty, to him, is a one-way street. When they no longer serve his purpose, he will discard them without hesitation, leaving them behind as casualties of his ambition. To him, they are mere echoes in a vast crowd, blurred faces beneath his gaze, voices beneath his notice. His promises are fleeting, spoken only to bind them, never to fulfill them. And when they realize, it will be too late. The leader, fueled by his own entitlement, will have taken everything he feels owed. He leaves them empty, bound to a dream that was always meant to serve him alone. Chapter 10. The Self-Sacrifice Trap. Embedded within us is a need to find meaning, to be part of something larger. Authoritarians understand this. They twist this impulse into the self-sacrifice schema. Followers are called to make sacrifices, putting the cause above their own needs. This could mean enduring hardship, surrendering freedoms, or committing violence. These sacrifices bind followers more tightly to the leader, creating a shared purpose. The more they sacrifice, the more invested they become, making it harder to see the truth. They have been manipulated, their sacrifices offered at the altar of a lie. Chapter 11. Masters of Manipulation. Authoritarian leaders have perfected the art of control. Through calculated words and actions, they reach into our deepest vulnerabilities to tighten their hold. They exploit our fears and need for meaning. They pull our strings, and we dance to their tune. They understand the power of repetition. Their narratives, no matter how absurd, are repeated through official channels and casual conversations. This constant barrage shapes our perceptions, dulling our critical thinking. We become desensitized to the atrocities committed in our name, and the puppet master smiles, knowing their grip is secure. But this is not the end of the story. We have the power to break free, to cut the strings, to reclaim our minds, our voices, our freedom. Chapter 12. Breaking free from manipulation begins with introspection. It's a solitary journey, confronting the reflection in the mirror. Acknowledge the schemas, the vulnerabilities exploited. The inner compass guides us through this terrain. It's the voice of reason, compassion, and self-awareness. It reminds us of our worth and capacity for independent thought. Chapter 13. The journey to reclaiming our minds is fraught with challenges. The authoritarian leader will escalate their tactics. Propaganda will intensify. Pressure to conform will mount. Doubts will creep in. This is where courage becomes paramount. But we don't have to walk this path alone. Seeking support can provide invaluable guidance and strength. It's about reclaiming our agency, our voices, our humanity. Chapter 14. The battle against manipulation is fought on two fronts, within ourselves and within our communities. By understanding the schemas exploited by authoritarians, we begin to dismantle their power. We see through the illusions, recognize the manipulations for what they are. But awareness alone is not enough. This means questioning everything, engaging in respectful dialogue, and seeking out diverse perspectives. It means building communities founded on empathy and understanding. Differences are valued, not feared. Chapter 15. A Call to Awaken. The world is not a stage, and we are not puppets. We don't have to be defined by fear, anger, or shame. Authoritarian leaders don't control us. We are capable of so much more. We hold the power to choose courage, to rise above. It's time to break free from the web of manipulation, to see through tactics designed to divide us. We are not bound by stories others tell us, or by emotions exploited for profit. Our healthy adult within us fights for freedom. It stands with those who value the worth of all. We choose compassion over hate, resilience over surrender. These are the foundations of true freedom. We're here to build, to connect, to advocate for freedom and compassion, to act in unity, not division, to create, not to destroy. The time to act? Now. Vote as if your future depended on it, because, spoiler alert, it does. Stay tuned for Part 3, The Last Stand, Uniting Communities Against Authoritarian Manipulation. This is the final chapter, a revelation. Together we'll expose how empathy, trust, and resilience, simple but powerful, can dismantle the authoritarian playbook. We'll uncover what they don't want you to know, how communities, united, can overcome fear, anger, and shame. This is the stand we take, together.